Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and it is time for us to do a little mock drafting. Ladies and germs, the 2025 NFL draft is just a couple of days away. I believe the first round is on Thursday. So we're getting mock draft 2.0 out there just in the nick of time, just right under the wire. I had expected and hoped to get this mock draft 2.0 out sooner. I feel like that's a fairly common thread in most seasons. Like, I wish I would have liked to have gotten this out sooner, but unfortunately, doesn't always work out that way. But what is going to work out is mock draft 2.0, which we are going to present to you tonight. So, mock draft 2.0 is going to work similarly to how it worked last year, for anybody that was around for mock draft 2.0 last year. So mock draft 2.0, we expand and we present as a 2-round mock draft. So there's going to be 64 picks that are going to be made here in mock draft 2.0, the first 2 full rounds of the NFL draft. This mock draft 2.0 also includes mock trades, and there are quite a few of them. So if you're wondering if your favorite team is involved in a mock trade, a pretty good chance that they are, because I've done, like I say, I've done quite a few. You're also going to notice, for those of you who are here for the live show, the chat. I've unfortunately had to put in subscriber only mode. There's a lot of live streamers that are getting botted lately on Twitch and on YouTube and whatever. So I did have to put it in subscriber only mode, and you have to have been subscribed to the channel for at least 24 hours. And that sucks. And I kind of tried to warn people about that ahead of time. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Obviously the comments section will be available to you as a VOD or anything like that, but you have to have been subscribed to the channel for at least 24 hours to continue in the live chat here for the stream. But we got a couple of people in the live chat now, so that's fantastic. So once again, 64 picks in this mock draft 2.0, 2 full rounds, mock trades and mock trades aplenty. And in terms of the chat, which I kind of mentioned specifically, in the spirit of kind of trying to keep this going and kind of trying to, keep us on a decent time pace for this, so that we're not sitting here for 4 hours, I'm going to try to mostly ignore the chat except for specific points in time. So I'm going to go with like every 8 picks. So look, we're making 64 picks. So that means like every 8 picks, I'm going to kind of check in with the chat and see what people are saying and see how they're liking the picks. And do you hate something that I've done or whatever? Because I feel like if I make a pick and then I go to the chat and look for somebody to react to that, I feel like we're going to be here all night. So so I see Kat in the chat to go, oh, so you hate me specifically? Like, no, but I figure like every 8 picks, we'll check in on the live stream, the live chat, and see how we're going. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started here with round 1 of our mock draft 2.0 for the 2025 NFL draft. So for each one of these picks, I will be kind of saying a little something about the players, just kind of like their basic bio, kind of my impression of them. I also, for each pick, have what I feel is a good NFL comp for these players. So not that I think they're going to be as good as these players right away, but I feel like these players are comparable to them. Maybe that's their ceiling in the NFL. Just kind of my impression of, kind of how I would rate these players coming out of college. So the first overall pick belongs to the Tennessee Titans. I think it's kind of a foregone conclusion here that the Titans are going to go quarterback. If it was me, I probably wouldn't, but I feel like there's just so many signs here that are pointing towards them going quarterback that I don't think it's reasonable to go in any other direction here. So first overall pick, I'm going to have the Tennessee Titans select Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. So Cam Ward, 6'2", 225, once again from the University of Miami, completed 67% of his passes, 4,300 yards passing, 39 touchdowns to just 7 picks. Also added 204 yards and 4 rush touchdowns. So this is a guy that I think does have some rushing upside at the NFL level, a very mobile pocket passer with absolutely elite arm talent. And I mentioned that specifically because I feel like maybe he relies on his arm talent a little too much. Sometimes he relies on the arm talent that he has to get him out of situations that he probably shouldn't have gotten himself into in the first place, and he'll get out of that with experience. But as of right now, the arm talent, I mean, I don't think any other quarterback in this class has the arm talent of Cam Ward. I think a good NFL comp for him is Bo Nix. To me, he profiles strongly as a Bo Nix type physically. I think he's a lot like Bo Nix. Bo Nix is my comp for him. Cam Ward goes first overall to the Tennessee Titans. The number 2 overall pick belongs to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland, I feel like this is where a lot of people are pegging, like, well, the draft starts here. You know, the draft starts at number 2 because does Cleveland go quarterback here? Do they, jump on a Shedeur Sanders? Could they go edge rusher with a guy like Abdul Carter? Could they go Travis Hunter? Travis Hunter, again, probably the most compelling prospect in this entire class. For me, for the number 2 overall pick here in Mock Draft 2.0, the Cleveland Browns select Abdul Carter, edge rusher from Penn State. And I saw an NFL content creator make the claim of, I think they just go with Abdul Carter here. Sure, they won't have a quarterback, but with Myles Garrett on one side and Abdul Carter on the other side, the other team won't have a quarterback either. And I think that's a good philosophy for them to take. Abdul Carter, 6'3", 260 out of Penn State University, racked up 68 tackles and 12 quarterback sacks last season at Penn State. Abdul Carter, to me, profiles as a pure wide 9 edge rusher who I think is going to quickly develop into an absolute 3-down game breaker at the NFL level. Kayvon Thibodeaux here for me is an excellent NFL comp for Abdul Carter. I think Carter's ceiling is higher than Thibodeaux's, but Thibodeaux is just, to me, a great comp as both a prospect and an NFL pro. So Abdul Carter from Penn State goes to Cleveland at number 2 overall. Number 3 overall belongs to the New York Giants, and this is another situation where the Giants could very well go quarterback. I know they've kind of got their quarterback for this year squared away, but the question of whether that's the long-term answer, we have to assume that's not the case. Quarterback's a possibility. Edge rusher here, I think, is a possibility. But look, I said Travis Hunter was the most compelling prospect in this draft, and I believe that. I stand on that. With the 3rd overall pick, the New York Giants select Travis Hunter, wide receiver and cornerback from the University of Colorado. Travis Hunter, 6'1", 185, racked up 35 tackles, 11 pass breakups, and 4 interceptions as a cornerback. And as a wide receiver, had a dominant season in college, 96 catches, 1,258 yards, and 15 receiving touchdowns. An absolute weapon on both sides of the ball. In my opinion, I feel like Travis Hunter best profiles as primarily a press man cornerback with very specific offensive packages. And I do feel like the Giants, who kind of have a little bit of kind of fresh blood in their front office and in their coaching staff, I think will be able to maximize the talents of a Travis Hunter. And as a cornerback, I think Travis Hunter profiles as like a Paulson Adebo, but maybe even a Patrick Surtain, and that is a very high praise. I think Paulson Adebo is a great comp, actually, for Travis Hunter. I think he's going to be a very good pro, and I think you'll be surprised this year at just how much he gets used on the offensive side of the ball. So, Travis Hunter, 3rd overall to the New York Giants. Fourth overall pick belongs to the New England Patriots. I think they definitely have a need at tackle. I think they have a need along the defensive line, but I'm actually going to go in the secondary here for the New England Patriots. With the fourth overall pick, I have them selecting Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan. And I feel like I'm higher on Will Johnson than a lot of other people kind of in the mock space. Will Johnson, 6'2", 200 pounds, put up 14 tackles, 3 pass deflections, and 2 interceptions this past season at Michigan. The big kind of byline for Will Johnson is he's a gambler. He's an absolute gambler in coverage. He will overcommit. He will bite going for interceptions, but has an elite skill set, and I think profiles way above that stat line from 2024. He profiles so much better than that. And I think a great NFL comp for Will Johnson, a guy that just signed a big deal to stay in Carolina, J.C. Horn. I think that's exactly who a team is going to be looking at if they draft Will Johnson, and I've got the Patriots taking Johnson at fourth overall. The fifth overall pick belongs to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I am going to be going with a pretty popular pick here for the Jags at fifth overall. I have Jacksonville drafting Mason Graham, defensive tackle from the University of Michigan, second straight pick from Michigan. So Mason Graham, 6'3", 320, racking up 46 tackles and 3.5 sacks from the D tackle position. Mason Graham is a versatile 3-tech anchor on the D line who does need more development in the pass rush game. He'll build that at the NFL level, and his ability to get to the quarterback, I think, will only increase as time goes on. Mason Graham, I think, comps like a Devontae Wyatt, talking about, one of my Packers boys. I think he profiles like a Devontae Wyatt in the middle of a D line. I think he's an excellent fit in Jacksonville. I know there's some push to go in other directions here, but I think Jacksonville's really going to regret it if they don't go Mason Graham here. So let's go Graham, fifth overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The sixth overall pick belongs to the Las Vegas Raiders. And look, this was not something like the pick that I ultimately went with for the Raiders, not something that I think people thought was a possibility, let's say, 6 weeks, maybe 2 months ago. I just don't think people thought he profiled quite this highly in the grand scheme of things. But boy, it is tough to deny that arguably the biggest playmaker on the offensive side in this entire draft class is Ashton Jeanty. And I think there's a really good fit here with Las Vegas. So sixth overall, I've got the Raiders drafting Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State. Jeanty, only 5'9", 215 pounds, so probably considered to be undersized at the NFL level. But man, there's a number of running backs that have found success at the NFL level in the last few years, who teams would have considered undersized a few years prior to that. Ashton Jeanty, 5'9", 215, like I said, 374 carries this past season for Boise State, 2,600 rushing yards, 29 rush touchdowns. This reads like the stat line of somebody playing Madden on easy mode. It's crazy. Adding up 23 catches for a $138 and a receiving touchdown. 800 plus touches in the last 3 seasons for Ashton Jeanty at the college level, which equals the definition of a bell cow back at the NFL level. A great comp, I think, for Ashton Jeanty is Kenneth Walker III, another guy that's considered undersized, I think, at the NFL level, but has found his fit, found his role with his team, and has found a lot of success at the professional level. If Jeanty can, project as high as a Ken Walker or above a Ken Walker, I think the Raiders are going to be super happy to take him here at 6th overall. The 7th overall pick belongs to the New York Jets, and you'll notice I have not made a trade yet. The New York Jets, I think there's probably 2 areas where the Jets are kind of primarily focused here potentially with this top pick. I think it's either along the offensive line or the defensive line. Again, I've said it for years. Games are won and lost in the trenches. whether it's on the offensive side or on the defensive side. I like them going tackle here. I think for the Jets, they have tried and tried and tried again to get this offensive tackle position right. And then they're going to take another kick at the can here in 2025. With the 7th overall pick, the New York Jets select Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU. Will Campbell, 6'6, 320 pounds. This is a guy who has super, super high IQ at the tackle position, an elite pass blocker who absolutely dominates run defenders as well, but offers, I think, very little versatility. You're talking about a guy here who is 100% a pure NFL left tackle, built in the mold of like a Rashawn Slater. I think his frame is very similar to Slater's, and I think he projects just right alongside Rashawn Slater at the next level. So Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU, goes to the Jets at number 7 overall. The number 8 pick in the draft belongs to the Carolina Panthers, except it doesn't. Ding, 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 ding. We have our first mock trade to announce. And what I'll be doing here probably is in the pinned comment above for the VOD folks. I'm just going to include the details of every mock trade that I've done because, the trades get not complicated, but there's information in there, right? So for the benefit of those watching the VOD, I'll have the mock trades in a pinned comment towards the top of the comment section. The Carolina Panthers trade the 8th overall pick, as well as pick number 111 and a 4th rounder next year, to the Miami Dolphins in exchange for picks 13 and 48. So the Dolphins trade their 1st and 2nd round pick to the Carolina Panthers. They get a couple of other later draft picks and move up from the 13th pick to pick number 8. The Miami Dolphins have seen a ton of turnover in this offseason, and I have them making an aggressive move here up the draft board to take Armand Membou, offensive tackle from the University of Missouri. They have a crippling need along the offensive line here. And as soon as they see Will Campbell go off the board, they're going to say, look, we cannot afford to wait any longer. They move up the board. They grab Armand Membou from Missouri, who has been shooting up draft boards and prospect boards for the last month. Membou, 6'3", 315 pounds, a high-end athlete with very, very quick feet, as well as a mean streak. Like, this guy gets nasty in the trenches, and I think he has the versatility to play across the offensive line, probably sticking on the right side more so than the left, but I think he can play across the offensive line. It is such a generalized upgrade for the Dolphins on the offensive line, and I think he's built in the mold of like an Elijah Vera Tucker. I think he's a great comp at the NFL level. Armand Membou, I think, probably profiles as a right tackle ultimately within the first couple of years, and Miami makes that move up the first round draft board to grab Membou at 8th overall. So we'll just take a quick little pause here to take a peek at the folks in chat. Blind Canadian Cat, again, saying more trades than the actual NFL has been doing these days. It's quiet as hell in the NFL. It is. Like, right now, the majority of the conversation you're getting, and really any of the action that you're getting, is like, oh, I heard this. It's a field day for the insiders, right? But there's very little actually happening in terms of like player movements or anything like that. It's a lot of this. It's a lot of conversation. It's a lot of like what I'm doing, but very little like actual action has happened to this point. Let's see. Broken Ankles here saying, let's go. He asks Campbell to New England. No, he goes to the division. He's in the division, but does not go to the Patriots. All right. Let's go with our next 8 picks here. We're going to start with the 9th overall pick, which belongs to the New Orleans Saints. Now, the question here, like obviously with the news coming out that Derek Carr probably is not going to play this season, everybody then obviously goes, well, I mean, Shedeur Sanders is a layup to be drafted here. I don't agree. And my philosophy here is I'm not as high on this quarterback class as almost anybody else. So it's my mock draft. The quarterbacks are going to go where I think they deserve to go. So I'm not going to have the Saints overreact to the idea that Derek Carr is not going to play this year. There's still a lot of things that can happen between now and the beginning of the season. For the 9th overall pick, I'm going to have the Saints go where I think the need is the highest. And to me, that's along the defensive line. The New Orleans Saints at number 9 overall select James Pierce Jr., edge rusher from Tennessee, a guy I am very, very high on. One of my guys in this draft class. James Pierce, 6'5", 245, so a big pass rusher on the edge, racking up 38 tackles and 7.5 sacks last season in Tennessee. Pierce, even though, again, he's 6'5", has a sub 4.5 40-yard dash. He generated 17 sacks over the last 2 seasons in college, a tailor-made dedicated pass rusher. And my comp here is a guy from, I believe, last year's draft class, Demayun Chop Robinson, who I was really, really high on in last year's class. I think James Pierce Jr. profiles exactly like him. I believe Chop was a first-round pick last year. I think Pierce obviously goes higher, I think, than Chop did, but I think they profile very, very, very similarly. I'm going to have the Saints grab Pierce here at 9th overall. I don't think that's going to be a popular pick. The 10th overall pick belongs to the Chicago Bears, except it doesn't. Ding, 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 ding. We have our second mock trade to announce, which has the Chicago Bears trading down with another NFC team, that being the Arizona Cardinals. The Bears trading the 10th overall pick to the Arizona Cardinals in exchange for picks 16, 78, and a 3rd round pick next year. So 16, 78, and a 3rd next year goes to Chicago in exchange for the 10th overall pick. Arizona leapfrogs 5 teams. They are on the clock now at the 10th overall pick. And really what prompted this is I think Arizona needs to take a defensive lineman in this first round. And as soon as they see James Pierce go off the board, there's like a run of guys here. And I think Arizona needs to jump up and get in that fray, or they're going to miss out on the top guys. So Arizona trades up with Chicago to draft Jalen Walker, edge rusher from Georgia. I guess technically he's an outside linebacker, but, OLB, edge rusher, we're basically talking about the same thing. Jalen Walker, 6'2", 245, again from the University of Georgia, racking up 61 tackles and 6.5 sacks in his 2024 season. Another edge linebacker with 4.5 40 speed, slightly undersized, but I think is going to be worth the wait in terms of the little bit of extra development time that I think he's going to require at the NFL level. His comp for me is Drew Tranquill. He really reminds me, if you watch some of his tape, I'm just like, he kind of looks like Drew Tranquill. If you run their tape side by side, I think they profile very, very similarly. And I think their frames are basically exactly the same. I think Jalen Walker has a high ceiling at the NFL level, and that's why Arizona is going to be willing to part with that draft capital to move up and grab him at 10th overall. The 11th overall pick belongs to the San Francisco 49ers. I know this is a popular spot to go offensive tackle. Probably not a bad spot to go corner either. But that's not where your boy is going to go here for the Niners. I'm going to have them continue to build along that defensive line. Again, I think they've had some losses in the offseason, specifically on the D-line. I think they're going to try to kind of refill those coffers a little bit. I like the Niners to select Mykel Williams, edge rusher, also from the University of Georgia. Mykel Williams, 6'5", 265, racked up 21 tackles and 5 sacks last season in Georgia. I think he aligns as a great run stopper almost immediately at the NFL level. The pass rush will come with additional reps, but I think to get him kind of along that D-line, kind of as a dedicated run stopper on early downs, and let his pass rush kind of develop over the next year or two, I think he winds up being a weapon on the defensive line for the Niners. My NFL comp for him is Pat Jones II. Again, that's a lot of that is frame. I think their frames are exceptionally similar, and that's kind of what I expect Mykal Williams to eventually be at the NFL level, is kind of similar to a Pat Jones. So that's the comp for me, and that's why I'm having the Niners take him 11th overall. The 12th overall pick belongs to the Dallas Cowboys, except it doesn't. Ding, 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 ding. We have our third mock trade of the first round. That's the third trade in the first 12 picks. The Dallas Cowboys trade the 12th overall pick to the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle sending picks 18, 82, and a third round pick next year to move up from 18 to 12. Seattle is now on the clock, and Seattle is going to uh, kind of jump the line here a little bit on an offensive tackle prospect, which is sliding down the boards a little bit. Like, I've got this guy for sure as like a top 10 prospect in this class. And the fact that he slid out of the top 10, I like Seattle to make a move up the board here to draft Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle from the University of Texas. Kelvin Banks, 6'4", 320, and like his NFL comp, who I believe is Peter Skoronski, I think he profiles as an elite pass blocker, but with versatility and arguably a higher ceiling on the inside of the offensive line. I know he's listed as a tackle. I think his NFL future is at guard, but I think Seattle will covet that versatility along the O-line, especially with all the turnover they've had this offseason. Solidifying that offensive line, I think, will be very important for them. So the Seahawks move up from 18 to 12 in order to draft Kelvin Banks Jr. from the University of Texas. Up now at number 13 is the Carolina Panthers, who have moved down in that mock trade with the Miami Dolphins. Carolina, I think, is going to look for somebody along the defensive line here. It's a little tougher for them because I believe they run like a base 3-4. So it feels like the D line, maybe they don't prioritize as much, especially the edge rusher position, because this draft class is really rich with edge rushers who do their best work from like a wide 9, which is not really what the Panthers tend to play. But I think there's a really good fit here for them in a D-line prospect from Texas A&M. At the 13th overall pick, I've got the Carolina Panthers selecting Shedeur Sanders, edge rusher from Texas A&M. Stewart, 6'5", 270 pounds, racking up 31 tackles and 1.5 sacks in his 2024 season. Shedeur Sanders absolutely obliterated the combine. Shedeur Sanders was one of the absolute stars of the NFL Combine a while back. He just lacked the production. That stat line does not jump off the screen to you. 31 tackles and 1.5 sacks. So he lacked the production to go with the fact that he clobbered the combine. To me, he is very, very worth the gamble. This is a D lineman in the mold of a Leonard Williams. Like, this is a guy that I think could very easily have that as his ceiling at the NFL level. And if you're talking about drafting Leonard Williams at the 13th overall pick, you go right for it. So the Carolina Panthers are going to grab Shedeur Sanders at 13th overall. The 14th overall pick belongs to the Indianapolis Colts. And the Colts, I think, are probably going to stick on the offensive side of the ball here. I think one of the things that's really going to unlock this Colts offense is more stability and higher production from the tight end position. Because, again, you're trying to see if you've actually got something here in Anthony Richardson. One of the best things you can do is give him an athletic security blanket at tight end. At the 14th overall pick, the Indianapolis Colts select Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State. So Tyler Warren, 6'6", 255, caught 104 balls for over 1,200 yards receiving and 8 receiving touchdowns last year in Penn State. A physical specimen at the tight end position with a really solid top end speed at the 40-yard dash. Really measured really highly, certainly among tight ends. He's high IQ. He's a leader. He profiles to me like a Pat Fryermuth. Really reminds me of Pat Fryermuth. So Tyler Warren, 14th overall to the Indianapolis Colts. I think that would be best case scenario for the Colts. I see Chris Carter in the chat. We are now going to talk at the 15th overall pick about his Atlanta Falcons. So, Chris, you know how the Atlanta Falcons have Drake London, and they enjoy having Drake London when he's, when he's healthy and when he's at his best. You say, boy, I really like Drake London. Y'all got any more of them Drake Londons? I think there's one in this draft class. And I think that's who they take here at 15th overall. With the 15th overall pick, the Atlanta Falcons, this is not a primary need. This is a bit of a vanity pick, but I really like it for them. They select Teteroa McMillan, wide receiver from the University of Arizona. To me, he comps like a Mike Evans, but boy, when you look at this guy, that's just like, wow, we have a Drake London on both sides of the field, and that's incredible. Tet McMillan, 6'4", 220, caught 84 balls for over 1,300 yards and 8 receiving touchdowns. A tall, big body red zone threat, versatility to play outside or in traffic. Again, if you have the opportunity to get a guy that profiles like Mike Evans, I think you go ahead and do that. And I just don't think with Tet McMillan falling this far down the draft board, I don't think the Falcons will let him go. So again, it's a bit of a vanity pick, but what insulation for their new young quarterback in Michael Penix. Give him another absolute weapon. Tet McMillan at 15th overall goes to the Atlanta Falcons. And the 16th overall pick, before we take a break to check in with the chat, is the Chicago Bears via that mock trade that we just made with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, it's tough because I really do think the Bears here are going to focus on the offensive line, but I don't think they need the help on the outside. I think they found their answers at tackle. This is going to be a stretch. This is going to be one of the stretches of the first round, but there's a guy on the interior of the O-line that I absolutely love and I think is going to be like a premier interior offensive lineman in this league very, very quickly. The Chicago Bears at number 16 overall select Tyler Booker, offensive guard from the University of Alabama. Tyler Booker, 6'5", 325, possesses the range of a tackle, but at guard. And again, I think that's an absolute weapon along the O-line. He is already an NFL-ready pass blocker. His run blocking does definitely need refinement, but the guy that I think he comps like, to talk about another Packer, is Elton Jenkins. Jenkins has played at tackle. He's played at guard. I think the Packers are moving him to center this year. So the versatility along the O-line to basically play wherever he's needed, I think a team like Chicago is going to absolutely covet that, given that Caleb Williams got absolutely beaten up this past year. So look, again, you can get an Elton Jenkins at the mid part of the first round. I think you go ahead and do that. So I like the Chicago Bears to grab Tyler Booker from Alabama at 16 overall. All right, time to check in with the chat here. Kat saying, I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Chicago or Dallas tries to trade up with New England to draft Jeanty. So, yeah, you're talking about having to move up ahead of the Raiders. I mean, the possibility is certainly there. It puts so much pressure on Jeanty, but then again, I mean, I just picked him 6th overall, so there's a ton of pressure there either way. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see it. I could see it happening, I guess, but yeah, it's obviously not the direction that I went in, but I could certainly see it happening. Chris said, "Hey, we made it. Awesome. Thank you so much." And Kat chiming in saying, "Falcons don't need a defense. It's fine." There's a whole nother round. There's a whole nother round to go with here. Tranquilo. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. So, the number 17 overall pick, belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals, except it doesn't. Ding, ding, ding. We have a trade to announce. The Cincinnati Bengals, in my fourth mock trade so far of this draft, trade the 17th overall pick to the Green Bay Packers. Cincinnati trading 17 to Green Bay in exchange for picks 23, 87, and a fourth round pick next year. 23, 87, and a fourth next year goes to Cincinnati for Green Bay to jump up from 23 to 17. Packers are on the clock. They have a very, very specific need here, which is in the secondary. And Jahdae Barron from the University of Texas, cornerback, is right there. They cannot let him fall any further. The Packers jump up from 23 to 17 in order to draft Jahdae Barron. Barron, 5'11", 200 pounds, with a very impressive stat line from this past year: 67 tackles, 11 pass breakups, and 5 picks. Barron, ultra versatile, multi-role in the secondary. He can play some safety. He can play some nickel. He can be your top corner. And I think with a situation here where the Packers are likely to be moving on from Jair Alexander, I think this is the smart play. He does have some size concerns, but I think he masks those with aggression and a really high IQ game in the secondary, diagnosing play calls, getting to the point of the ball, and making the play. Really, like, to me, compares very favorably to like a Quinyon Mitchell, who played a pretty significant role overall. The 18th overall pick belongs to the Dallas Cowboys after the third mock trade that we did. The Cowboys do have a number of needs. Their most pressing needs, I think, are on the offensive side of the ball. The big need here is running back. Like, everybody kind of looked at them as the team to take Ginty early when Dallas had the 12th overall pick, and now like it's looking pretty strongly like Ginty's going to go significantly before that. So this is kind of why I had Dallas trade back. They're still going to reach a little bit here, but at the 18th overall pick, I've got the Dallas Cowboys selecting Omarion Hampton, running back from North Carolina. Hampton, 6 feet, 220 pounds, with not an equal stat line to Ginty, but his stat line very impressive from 2024. 281 carries, over 1,600 yards rushing, and 15 rushing touchdowns. Oh, there's my points here. Where did you go? Ah, there you are. Hampton, a much more involved receiver than Ginty was as well, catching 38 balls for 373 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Omarion Hampton profiles to me like Josh Jacobs. Honestly, a 3-down home run hitter with a solid receiving pedigree as well gives him a very high floor at the NFL level. Like, his contributions, his average contribution is going to be significantly higher because of that receiving pedigree. This is a 3-down back all day long, and the Dallas Cowboys, I think, are going to be able to get him after a trade back and really still have like a new key piece to the offense. It's just not Ashton Ginty. It might be Ashton Ginty light, but again, I think Hampton is a much more polished receiver, and it makes him more dangerous. So Hampton to the Dallas Cowboys at 18 overall. All right. The 19th overall pick belongs to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think their kind of primary areas of need are mostly all along the defensive side of the ball. They could go in a variety of directions here, but based on the kind of the value of my prospect rankings as I was going along, this guy was kind of falling down the board here, and I felt like he was a value pick. The fact that he was still here at 19 overall, I've got the Tampa Bay Bucks taking Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia. Starks 6'1", 205, racking up 77 tackles, 3 pass breakups, and a pick last year at Georgia. He is a rangy DB with a great first step. He gets on the ball immediately. Like, he gets on the ball almost like Ed Reed. He can't diagnose plays quite like Ed Reed because, I mean, look, very few people could diagnose plays like Ed Reed. But again, he's got a great first step. He gets to the ball super quickly. He's an incredible tackler and a run stopper. He does need work in coverage and work against the pass. That will come at the NFL level, but this guy is an elite run stopper, and I think is an NFL ready run stopper from the safety position. I think Tampa gets a lot of usage out of a guy like this. Malachi Starks at 19 overall to the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Denver Broncos hold pick number 20. And as I said with Tampa Bay, that their need is basically along the defensive side. I think Denver's need is almost entirely on the offensive side of the ball. And I think a really popular pick here, even though they just brought in Evan Engram. Look, you can never have too many really high-level, capable tight ends. I think at number 20 overall, the Denver Broncos select Colston Loveland, tight end from the University of Michigan. Loveland, 6'5", 245, caught 56 balls for 582 yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. Loveland is a pure receiving tight end, whereas with Tyler Warren earlier, he's a high-level receiving tight end, but you do get some of that blocking in there as well. Loveland, not so much the case. He needs to develop that aspect of his game, and I feel like he'll get more usage out of a Denver system once he does develop that. Probably take a season or two. But as of right now, he's a pure receiving tight end, needs work in the blocking side, but can stretch the field, especially from the slot and just kind of lining him up on the interior. He's got the speed to stretch the field. To me, he profiles like a Tucker Kraft type of tight end. I like Loveland's fit here in Denver big time. So he goes number 20 to the Broncos. The 21st overall pick belongs to the Pittsburgh Steelers, except it doesn't. Ding, ding, ding. We have our 5th mock trade of Mock Draft 2.0. We haven't even gotten out of the first round yet. This is our 5th mock trade, and it involves the Pittsburgh Steelers sending pick number 21 and a 5th round pick to the Houston Texans in exchange for picks 25 and 89. So, pick number 25 and a 3rd round pick this year goes to Pittsburgh in exchange for 21 and a 5th rounder in 2025. So the Houston Texans move up 4 spots on the draft board, and that's because Luther Burden III, wide receiver from the University of Missouri, continues to slide down the board. One of the better offensive weapons left in this class. Luther Burden, a great fit here in Houston at number 21. Burden, 5'11", 210, 61 catches, 676 yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns. He has a high motor, great acceleration, a versatile receiver to play either the outside or the inside. Also a very physical blocker in the run game. He's a guy that outplays his size in a big way, and I think is the kind of receiver like a Deebo Samuel who you have to script and manufacture touches for him. I think Luther Burden gets a lot of work in the run game early on in his NFL career. Again, that's why I think he profiles like a Deebo Samuel type, manufactured touches, and he's going to be an absolute offensive weapon for the Houston Texans. They trade up and get him at 21 overall. The 22nd overall pick belongs to the Los Angeles Chargers. And they have needs on both sides of the ball. They can go on the D-line. They can go on the offense. They can probably go on the inside of the O-line if they were in place to get a guy. Like if a Tyler Booker was still there, that might be a nice fit for them. I'm going to have them go on the D-line and the middle of that D-line, not at edge rush, but at tackle. I like the Chargers at number 22 overall to draft Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Harbaugh's University of Michigan. Kenneth Grant, 6'3", 340 pounds, racking up 32 tackles and 3 sacks in his 2024 season in Michigan. A pure nose tackle with a developing repertoire as a pass rusher. He is great at stopping the run. He's also a field goal blocker on special teams. He got a few in high school. I think he got a couple in college as well. So he's a guy that's going to get special teams reps right away at the NFL level, increasing his value. Again, at pure nose tackle, which is a big need for the Chargers coming into the 2025 season. I really like the fit here of Kenneth Grant going to the Chargers at 22. Oh, and by the way, Kenneth Grant's NFL comp, as far as I'm concerned, Christian Wilkins. So if you can get Christian Wilkins at 22 overall, I think you do it. All right. The 23rd overall pick belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals after that mock trade with Green Bay. I think they could go anywhere on the D line. I think they could go receiver here if they wanted to, although they just locked up their two big weapons long term. So that would probably be a little bit of a waste. I'm actually going to have the Bengals go on the interior of the defensive line as well. It was kind of a coin flip here for me between Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon, DT out of Oregon. But we're going to go ahead and have the Bengals take Harmon after the Chargers took Grant. So Derek Harmon, 6'5", 320 pounds, 45 tackles, and 5 sacks in 2024 from the University of Oregon. A 3-tech pass rusher, a massive wingspan on this guy. His wingspan, I think, measured above the 90th percentile for D tackles. He also ran a sub 5-second 40-yard dash at the combine, which is scary speed for a D tackle of 320 pounds. His NFL comp for me is Quinnen Williams. I think they're built basically exactly the same. I think Derek Harmon will develop into a Quinnen Williams type, and I think Cincinnati will get a lot of usage out of a guy like that on the interior of their D line. Derek Harmon to the Bengals at number 23. And at the 24th overall pick, we have the Minnesota Vikings, who I think see their biggest area of need, certainly on the defensive side of the ball, but I think more specifically in the secondary. And I think we probably have the best single weapon on the defensive side still available on the draft board. So at number 24, the Minnesota Vikings select safety Nick Emenwari from South Carolina. Emenwari, 6'3", 225, and what a stat line this guy put up in 2024. 88 tackles, 2 pass breakups, 4 interceptions from the safety position. Nick Emenwari, again, the stat line matches his elite measurables in terms of, again, speed, wingspan. Like, this guy is a weapon on defense. A prototypical nickel DB with sub 4.4 speed to get to wherever the ball is going to be. Nick Emenwari is a huge addition to the Minnesota Vikings at the secondary. I think they take him at number 24 overall, Nick Emenwari from South Carolina to the Vikings. And once again, his NFL comp, for me, Kyle Hamilton. That's how highly I think of Nick Emenwari. To me, he profiles like a Kyle Hamilton type. All right. I actually think we're making fairly decent time here. We're going to get this first round in under an hour, and then we will continue on through the second round. The second round, I'm going to be talking a little bit less about the prospects. Like, yeah, I want to spend more time on the guys that are being taken in the first round. So I just think that makes more sense. We'll talk a little bit less about the second round picks, but we want to spend a little more time on the ones going in the first. By the way, I love that pick for Minnesota. When I realized Nick Emenwari was still there, I'm like, that's a hand in a custom made glove. That's a great pick. To the point that I think I'd have Minnesota trade up for him, honestly. I think he's like the perfect fit. Let's see. Blind Canadian Cat in the chat saying, or maybe New England calls the Raiders and say, hey, we're going to trade this pick. Maybe do you want it? Give us something. That's continuing on the conversation about somebody trading up for Ashton Jeanty. Cat also adds in, whatever happened to Luke Musgrave? I need more Musgrave involvement in that offense. That's a good question. I feel like Tucker Kraft just kind of kept the eye of the coaching staff, and I just think Musgrave did. I think Musgrave dealt with some injuries last year too. I wouldn't be surprised to see his involvement in the offense grow this year, especially like I kind of feel like the Packers are going to part with one of those receivers, so that opens up more pass rep and pass catching opportunities for a guy like Musgrave. All right, let's finish off our first round here with the final 8 picks. Pick number 25 belongs to the Pittsburgh Steelers after that mock trade with the Houston Texans. So for Pittsburgh here, I think they're probably looking on the defensive side of the ball as well, but their need is definitely in at corner. And after seeing kind of Green Bay move up and grab the best available corner left in Jahdae Barron, Pittsburgh had to feel fairly comfortable about moving down, where the next best corner, I think, available in this class is Siobhan Revell Jr., corner from East Carolina. So I've got Pittsburgh grabbing him at pick number 25. Revell, 6'3", 195 pounds, only had 8 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions last year because he tore his ACL in September. So he does have 4.4 speed, and it's been measured, but he's coming off of an ACL tear, which does make him a risky pick. But this guy's got like Christian Gonzalez CB1 upside. Siobhan Revell could ultimately wind up being Pittsburgh's like you have a 1-2 punch there at corner of Siobhan Revell and Joey Porter Jr. Like, yes, please. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch there at corner, and to be able to put that together and trade down in order to do so, I think it's a tidy piece of business there for the Steelers. Siobhan Revell Jr. goes number 25 to Pittsburgh. The 26th overall pick belongs to the Los Angeles Rams, and after ending the Cooper Kupp era, I've got them going right back to the well at wide receiver to pair a young, explosive talent with Puka Nacua. I've got them taking Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State, to the Rams at 26 overall. Egbuka, 6'01", 205 pounds, caught 81 balls for over 1,000 yards and 10 receiving touchdowns last year with Ohio State. Egbuka has an any alignment versatility. You can put him anywhere on the field at receiver, but likely projects as like a top end slot receiver. And I think he's already an NFL ready kick and punt returner. I think he's going to be like a standout kick and punt returner at the NFL level this season. Could one of the better, I would think, rookie special teams members would be Emeka Egbuka this year. To me, he projects like a Jackson Smith and Jigba, which again, Smith and Jigba had a lot of value as a kick and punt returner beginning of his NFL career as well. So Emeka Egbuka to the Rams at 26 overall. The 27th overall pick goes to the Baltimore Ravens. And the Ravens are kind of a best player available situation as far as I'm concerned. I think they've got some specific areas of need, but I don't feel like there's like a wild, outstanding one. I kind of felt like we could go a little vanity with this one a little bit, but when I look at the Ravens, what I do note is I feel like on the offensive line, they could go tackle, they could go interior, they've got a need at both. So let's get a guy who I think has versatility to play both and basically play wherever they would need him. It's a bit of a stretch, but at number 27 overall, I've got the Baltimore Ravens selecting Gray Zabel, offensive tackle from North Dakota State. Gray Zabel, 6'6", 305. And again, I think he's among this class's most well-rounded offensive linemen. He's got experience starting at the college level in 4 different spots, both tackle positions, and I think both guard positions. He got starting reps in college everywhere on the O-line except center. I think a move to the inside of the O-line probably maximizes his skill set and his ability. I think his NFL comp is a Cody Mosh, and I think he projects probably even a bit higher than Cody Mosh, who had an excellent season this year. I'm going to have him take Gray Zabel and basically, hey man, we need you to go play here. And he's just like, sure thing, boss. Like, he's got the experience. I don't think the moment would be too big for him, even if he's getting some reps at left tackle or wherever he's getting reps. I think Gray Zabel is up to that task. Big body, very well-rounded. Let's have him go 27th overall to the Baltimore Ravens. The 28th overall pick belongs to the Detroit Lions, except it doesn't. Ding, ding, ding. We have a trade to announce, and we have a team trading up from the second round into the first. Get ready for this one. The Detroit Lions trade pick number 28 and a 4th round pick next year to the Las Vegas Raiders in exchange for picks 37, 180, and a 3rd round pick next year. So once again, 28 and a 4th for 37, 180, and a 3rd. That has the Raiders jump all the way from 37 to 28 because, ladies and gentlemen, Shedeur Sanders is still there. Shedeur Sanders getting the Aaron Rodgers treatment here of falling down the 1st round draft board. The Raiders finally say, no mas, enough is enough. They jump the line. They've already got their Ashton Jeanty. They've got their running back of the future. Now they go get their quarterback of the future. The Las Vegas Raiders select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback from the University of Colorado, at 28 overall after a mock trade with Detroit. Shedeur Sanders, 6'2", 215, 74% completion on his passes, a very high completion percentage from Shedeur Sanders, 4,100 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He also had 4 rushing touchdowns, despite having like negative 50 rushing yards. So it was very, very weird. I don't think he has any rushing upside at the NFL level, but I think with that like kind of short yardage tush push kind of thing, I think he'll probably poach some rushing touchdowns a la Jalen Hurts. Shedeur Sanders has a very high ceiling, but as far as I'm concerned, he's got a very shaky floor. I feel like Shedeur Sanders could either be a top 10 quarterback in this league or out of the league in 4 years. Like, I feel there's a very wide range of outcomes here as far as I'm concerned for Shedeur Sanders, which is why I don't have him going in the top 10 or the top 5 or 2nd overall or anything like that. I feel like it's such a wide range of outcomes, I just couldn't personally do it. But we got the Raiders jumping the line. They couldn't let Cleveland get around here a second time. They couldn't let the Giants get around here a second time because one of those teams is going to take the quarterback if Shedeur Sanders kept falling. So the Raiders jump the line. They get Shedeur Sanders, who I think comps like, I don't know, like a Kenny Pickett kind of thing. And I'll say that and people will laugh. But remember, Kenny Pickett coming out of college was like the top quarterback in his class and was drawing comparisons to very good quarterbacks. So when I say he comps like Kenny Pickett, that's what I mean. Like, again, high ceiling, low floor kind of thing. Kenny Pickett could have become a top 10 quarterback in this league. Instead, he became Kenny Pickett. That's what I think could happen to Shedeur Sanders, which is why I actually like the comp quite a bit. But I got the Raiders jumping the line from 37 to 28 to select Shedeur Sanders. The 29th overall pick belongs to the Washington Commanders. I think their biggest area of need is along their defensive line, and I'm going to have them go ahead and grab what's probably the highest ceiling edge rusher left in this class, and that's Mike Green, edge rusher from Marshall, who I believe led the nation in quarterback sacks this past season with 17. Um, Again, he plays for a small school, so he kind of went under the radar for quite a while. But I've got the Commanders grabbing Mike Green at 29 overall. Mike Green, 6'4, 250 pounds, 81 tackles, and 17 quarterback sacks last season. There's no question marks about that stat line, right? That stat line is incredible. There are off the field issues or have been in his past. I think a couple of DV situations, a couple of them, by the way, not just one. That hurts his appeal, as far as I'm concerned. But he's an edge rusher that wildly outplays his physique, and I think his ceiling at the NFL level is like a Danielle Hunter, like a perpetual high level pass rusher in this league, as long as those off the field issues don't stand in the way of him becoming what he could become at the professional level. I've got the Commanders rolling the dice here a little bit, grabbing Mike Green. I do still think he's a consensus first rounder, so I think he's going to go somewhere here, and I just feel like the fit here in Washington is good. So Mike Green, edge rusher from Marshall, goes to Washington at 29. The 30th overall pick belongs to the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills, I think, are another team that could go just about anywhere, kind of best player available here. But I think they stick on the defensive side of the ball. And I kind of like them grabbing somebody up the middle here. The best available D tackle is Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. So let's go ahead and have Buffalo grab him at 30th overall. Walter Nolan, 6'4, 290 pounds, racked up 48 tackles and 6.5 sacks at Ole Miss this past season. Nolan is a three-tech pocket crusher who projects right alongside the other top DTs in this class. And honestly, I think a great comp for him is Chris Jones. He's becoming that prototypical, again, pocket crushing, pressure the quarterback type DT in the middle of a defensive line. I think Walter Nolan fits that mold very, very well. So Buffalo's definitely getting a guy that's going to make an immediate impact here at the next level. Walter Nolan goes to the Bills at 30th overall. The 31st overall pick belongs to the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs are definitely in that best player available spot. The Chiefs, I think, are in like a trade down spot here if you really wanted to. I just couldn't find a great opportunity sort of for them to do so. So I'm going to have them stick here at pick number 31 and take the best prospect that I think is still available on the offensive line, because I think it's definitely where they need most of their help. I'm going to have the Chiefs grab Josh Connerly Jr., O-tackle from the University of Oregon. Connerly Jr., 6'4", 305 pounds. To me, he's a pure left tackle, but I think he may have some versatility on the right side as well. I think he lacks a little bit of the strength to hold up to the more powerful NFL pass rushers, but he's got great speed. His lateral speed is incredible, probably the highest lateral speed of any O lineman in this draft class. And I think he comps like a Laramie Tunsil. I don't necessarily think he's going to be as good as Tunsil, because Tunsil's one of the elite tackles in the league, but he profiles like a Laramie Tunsil. And I think that's kind of going to be the North Star that Josh Connerly kind of projects towards for most of his career. So Josh Connerly to the Chiefs. I think he makes their O-line significantly better at number 31. And here we go. Final pick of the first round belongs to the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, except it doesn't. Ding, 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 ding. We have a trade to announce with a second team trading up into the first round from round 2. The Philadelphia Eagles trade pick number 32 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville trades up From pick number 36, they offer up pick number 126 and a sixth rounder next year in order to move up those 4 spots from 36 to 32. The Jags to make their second pick here in the first round after taking Mason Graham at 5th overall. And they're going to grab somebody on the offensive side of the ball right now. In fact, they're going to grab the fastest wide receiver in this class. The Jacksonville Jaguars select Matthew Golden, wide receiver from the University of Texas. Matthew Golden, 6 feet, 195 pounds, only caught 58 balls last year, but turned those 58 catches into nearly 1,000 yards receiving. 987 with 9 receiving touchdowns. Matthew Golden is the vertical threat wide receiver in this entire draft class. A sub 4.3 combine 40-yard dash, has upside as a kick returner, does maybe have some focus drop issues, which I mean, a lot of young players certainly have. And I think he'll kind of develop his way out of that in his first couple of years. But what a weapon for the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence to maximize Trevor Lawrence and, you know, the arm talent that Lawrence does have. Go get a guy like Matthew Golden, trade up a couple of spots to do so. They're not going to regret doing that. Matthew Golden to Jacksonville at number 32. So there's the entirety of the first round done. What was that? 7 mock trades in round 1. You know, a couple of reaches there, a couple of stretches, but man, that was a fun first round. Like, there's a lot of intrigue for a lot of teams, I feel, coming out of that first round and how that first round played out. So we're going to check in here with the chat before we move on to the second round. And like I say, I'm going to spend a little less time talking about the prospects in the second round because I really wanted to hyper focus on the prospects that were taken with the first 32 picks. Let's see. Blind Canadian Cat screaming pass rusher or guard, please. That was for the Baltimore Ravens. So you got your wish on that one. I would have thought you would have made Cleveland trade up. I'm kind of surprised here with Vegas doing it. Yeah, like I say, there was no way that Vegas was going to be able to let the Giants and the Browns come around with their second picks because one of them was going to take Sanders without question. So if quarterback's on the mind, they had to make the move. I did briefly think about having the Saints make this move, but ultimately I landed on the Raiders, and the Raiders kind of became the stars, I guess, of the first round by doing that. Andrew Warren is in the chat now too. Raiders draft me as the top prognosticator. Awesome. I'll take it. I'll take the pressure. Give me the pressure of being the first overall pick. I'll take it. I have Sanders going to Cleveland or the New York Giants. That's from Andrew as well. Andrew saying, I'm hoping Mike Green goes number 4 to the Patriots. That's how much I like him. Wow. I mean, look, he led the nation in sacks. Dude is a monster. Jacksonville at number 32 with Matthew Golden. I don't know if he wants to go to AEW. Nobody wants to go to AEW. Ask Rusev. I think he wants to be at WrestleMania. Is it too late for Jacksonville to go to the CFL? I keep telling you, we don't want them. We do not want Jacksonville in the CFL. If anybody, give us who will we take? You know what? Give us Carolina. Give us Carolina. They'll be fun. I'll take Bryce Young and Chuba Hubbard back in the CFL. I like it. Give us Carolina and you got a deal. All right. So before we move on to the second round, I very quickly need to go and refill my water because that was a lot of talking. So hold, please. I will be right back. All right. We're back. I'm refueled. I'm ready to roll. Let's see. Water, sure, buddy. No, 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 no. No, nothing special this evening, unfortunately. Send Cleveland or Buffalo. Boy, if you want to send us the Buffalo Bills, sure thing. That's we will take that deal. Let's see. Bryce Young can make a good fit for the CFL. Bryce Young. I don't know whether Bryce Young has the arm for the CFL, and that's not criticizing Bryce Young. That's just saying, like, I mean, Johnny Manziel didn't have the arm for the CFL, so it's a lot bigger field. So it's it takes a special arm on a quarterback to be able to have success throwing, and it's a bigger football too. So it's different. I'm curious to see if Sanders does honestly fall to, I think it was 28. Yeah, like again, that's just a reflection of the fact that I'm not super high on him. That's all that is. So, do I expect that he'll fall that far with NFL GMs who are, quarterback crazy? Probably not. Would it surprise me? Pleasantly. It would pleasantly surprise me because I think I'd feel like they were more kind of in tune with reality. Let's see if whether Cleveland takes Hunter or Carter, if Sanders is still there at 18, 19. Oh yeah, yeah. I think that's probably realistic. I mean, I don't know what kind of full draft capital the Browns have, but yeah, I mean it's entirely possible. Cleveland can do what Houston did a few years back, trade with the Giants, so they pick 2 and 3. Yeah, yeah, definite possibility. All right, we ready for the second round? Speaking of the CFL, any idea when your week 1 picks are coming up? I haven't really looked at the schedule yet, so I'm not sure about that. But once I have that answer, I'll put that out on Twitter. So you guys will know as soon as I do. All right, here comes the second round. The 33rd overall pick belongs to the Cleveland Browns, who, of course, we had go with Abdul Carter in the first round. And look, I'm going to have Cleveland answer the long-term quarterback question here right at the beginning of the second round. I like them going with Jackson Dart. So at 33 overall, I got the Browns going Jackson Dart, quarterback from Ole Miss, 6'2", 225, completed 69% of his passes for over 4,200 yards, 29 touchdowns, 6 picks, 124 carries for almost 500 yards rushing and 3 rush touchdowns. This is a J.J. McCarthy type quarterback to me all day long. I think he's got more rushing upside maybe than McCarthy does at the NFL level. But look, we're going to go ahead and have Cleveland answer this quarterback question right away at the start of the second round. Jackson Dart, quarterback from Ole Miss, goes to the Browns at 33. The 34th overall pick belongs to the New York Football Giants, who obviously went with Travis Hunter in the first round at 3rd overall. I think they probably look on the defensive side of the ball here, even though, again, they took a top-end defensive prospect there in the first round. They've got more needs on the defensive side than just him. I'm going to have them go with the best edge rusher left in this class. And as far as I'm concerned, that is Nick Scourton, edge rusher from Texas A&M. 6'4", 280 pounds is Nick Scourton at his max, racking up 37 tackles and 5 sacks in 2024. His NFL comp for me is Will McDonald IV. So I think he's got that kind of ceiling at the NFL level, built very similarly to Will McDonald. I think that's his ceiling. Nick Scourton goes to the Giants at 34. The 35th overall pick belongs to the Tennessee Titans, except it does not. Ding, ding, ding. We have our 8th mock trade of the night and the first such trade in the second round. The Tennessee Titans trading pick number 35 and a 7th round pick next year to the Chicago Bears. The Bears trade up from pick number 39. They send 39, 148, and a 5th rounder next year to the Tennessee Titans to move up those 4 spots from pick number 39 to pick number 35 to grab the best linebacker, arguably the best interior linebacker in this entire class. The Chicago Bears grab Jihad Campbell, linebacker from the University of Alabama. Just a straight line Mike linebacker, middle of the defense to cause havoc. 6'3", 245 pounds is Jihad Campbell. 119 tackles and 5 sacks for the University of Alabama standout this past year. Comps to me like an Edger and Cooper type in the middle of a defense, a pure Mike linebacker. I think Jihad Campbell is going to make a massive impact at the NFL level. He goes 35th overall to the Chicago Bears, and Jihad Campbell is the last guy in this entire draft class who I would be comfortable saying there's a really good chance he's going to be a first-round pick. In this mock, he slides out of the first round, but I love Chicago getting aggressive and making that move for the last remaining guy that probably should have been a first-rounder. The 36th overall pick belongs to the Philadelphia Eagles by way of that mock trade with Jacksonville that we did at the tail end of the first round. Best player available situation for the Eagles, but I love them sticking on the defensive line. And I think it's probably better for them to go on the edge rusher side of the D-line. And I think the best edge rusher left in this class is arguably Jack Sawyer, edge rusher from Ohio State. Sawyer, 6'5", 260, racked up 9 sacks and 59 tackles in 2024. His NFL comp for me is Trayvon Walker, a huge prospect from a couple of years back. Trayvon Walker and Jack Sawyer, I think, basically have the same ceiling at the NFL level, and I really like the fit here with the Eagles for Jack Sawyer. Pick number 37 belongs to the Detroit Lions by virtue of that mock trade with the Raiders that we did earlier in the first round. I think Detroit's primary area of concern here is probably along the defensive line because you don't really know how Aiden Hutchinson is going to come back and look off of, a pretty significant leg injury from last season. So I think they're going to go ahead and insulate that defensive line a little bit more with Donovan Ezeruaku, edge rusher from Boston College. And I think I pronounced the last name right. He's 6'2", 245 pounds, racked up 80 tackles and 16 and a half sacks in 2024. I think he's a great run stopper. I think he's a great pass rusher, and he's just going to make life miserable for teams in the NFC North. Hooray. So, Ezeruaku from Boston College, 37th overall to the Detroit Lions. By the way, his NFL comp for me, A'Shawn Robinson. The number 38 overall pick belongs to the New England Patriots. I, of course, had them go with the 4th overall pick and take Will Johnson from Michigan. I think they stay on the defensive side of the ball here with their 2nd round pick. I'm going to have them take another edge rusher. We got another run here on really high-end edge rusher talent. I've got them taking Landon Jackson, edge rusher from the University of Arkansas. He's 6'7", 280 pounds, racking up 49 tackles and 6.5 sacks last season for the University of Arkansas. His NFL comp for me is Keon White, who I believe spent some time in New England, if memory serves me correctly. So they have the ability to bring in another Keon White. I think it's worthwhile for them. Landon Jackson from the Arkansas Razorbacks goes to the Patriots at 38 overall. The 39th overall pick belongs to the Tennessee Titans by virtue of that mock trade that I made with the Chicago Bears. For the Titans, they've already taken care of the quarterback question with the 1st overall pick. I think the defense definitely needs some looking at in this spot. And I think the best defensive back, the best cornerback still available in this class is Benjamin Morrison, cornerback from Notre Dame. And that's where I'm going to have the Titans go with their second round pick. Morrison, 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, racked up 20 tackles, 3 pass breakups, did not have a pick last year in a season that was shortened by injury. For me, a great NFL comp for Benjamin Morrison is Terrion Arnold from last year's draft class. I think they profile very, very similarly at the NFL level. I think he's a starting corner for Tennessee probably by year 2. Benjamin Morrison, I like the fit here for the Tennessee Titans at 39. And the New Orleans Saints here are back up at pick number 40. So this is going to be another one that is super, super unpopular. Both of my New Orleans picks are going to be super unpopular, to the point that I'm sitting here considering calling an audible. Because as much as I think they need the player that I've taken, man, Jalen Milroe is sitting right there. And man, oh man, I think there's a lot of value in taking Jalen Milroe with this pick. Could I pull an unprecedented move here and call an audible? Oh boy. No, I'm not going to. I'm sticking with my guns. With the 40th overall pick, I have the New Orleans Saints taking cornerback Trey Amos from Ole Miss. Trey Amos, 6'1", 190 pounds, 50 tackles, 13 pass breakups, and 3 picks in the 2020. And here's the reason why I'm not calling the audible. My NFL comp for Trey Amos is Sauce Gardner. And I don't say that lightly. Trey Amos could wind up being the best corner in this entire class. If we revisit this in 5 years, it's possible that Trey Amos is the best corner from this class. So that's the caliber of player that would cause me to sit here and go, they don't need to worry about quarterback. And have, having a guy like Milroe or Quinn Ewers sitting right there, and I could call the audible. I'm going to stick with Trey Amos because I believe in Trey Amos that much. All right, let's take a quick peek here into the chat. Let's see. Jackson Dart could be a sleeper in the draft. I think he absolutely will be. Giants need a quarterback more than anything. They do definitely need to figure that out, but somehow I get the feeling they're trying to suck one more year and go for Arch Manning. Any plans for a live stream on draft night? Possibly. If anything, Chicago needs help on defense badly, and getting a linebacker could be a good start for that. I think so. You need a trade alarm next year for your mock draft. No, I just need a cowbell. That's what I'll do next year. Next year, I'll get a cowbell. I'll be around Boston College and Fenway area next week for a concert and a Red Sox game. Very cool. Very cool. If your prediction for Tennessee comes true, they'll be all set for the future. Love it. Do you think Carver will get drafted? I think Carver will show up in October no matter what we do. All right. So the Chicago Bears here are back up with pick number 41. Now remember, Chicago, the reason they had pick 39 was because of a trade they had made with Carolina. So they had 39 and they got 41. And then, of course, Chicago trading that pick up in a mock trade here. So they're up again at 41, having taken care of a defensive spot and, of course, an O-line spot in the first round. And this is one of the big steals of the draft here. At the 41st overall pick, the Chicago Bears select running back Trevion Henderson from Ohio State. I love this pick. I love this fit. Trevion Henderson, if there is anything right with the world, should be a Bear on day 2 of this draft. Henderson, 5'10", 210 pounds, carried the ball 144 times for over 1,000 yards rushing, had 10 rush touchdowns, added 284 yards on 27 catches, and a receiving touchdown as well. My NFL comp for him is Bucky Irving. I really like the player. I love the fit. The Bears take Henderson, 41st overall. 42nd overall pick belongs to the New York Jets. I had them take a tackle in the first round. I'm going to have them go on the defensive side of the ball this time and grab somebody on the middle of that defensive line. 42 overall, the Jets select Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle from Ohio State. 6'3", 325 pounds is Williams, racked up 46 tackles and 2.5 sacks at Ohio State last year. Davon Godchaux is my NFL comp for him. I like Williams. I like the fit here as well. Jets take him at 42. 43rd overall pick belongs to the San Francisco 49ers, and as I had them take an edge rusher in the first round, Michael Williams, I'm going to have them take a D tackle in the second round. They're really just remaking that entire defensive front here in this mock draft. I'm going to have them select TJ Sanders, D tackle from South Carolina. Sanders, 6'4", 290 pounds, 51 tackles, and 4 sacks last season in South Carolina. My NFL comp here is Jeffrey Simmons. I'm very high on TJ Sanders. I like him in the middle there for the Niners at pick 43. Pick 44 is the Dallas Cowboys, who, of course, took Omarion Hampton after a trade down in the first round. I've got the Cowboys selecting Cameron Williams, offensive tackle from the University of Texas. And I like to call this guy Bear Paws. This guy has some of the biggest hands in the entire draft class for offensive linemen. 6'5", 335 pounds, a mountain of a man. They keep him in the state of Texas. My NFL comp for him is Matthew Bergeron, which means I do probably think his highest ceiling in the NFL is probably on the interior. It's probably on the inside, but I like Cameron Williams a lot. I like the fit here in Dallas. Cameron Williams to the Cowboys at 44. The 45th overall pick belongs to the Indianapolis Colts, except it doesn't. Ding, 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 ding. We have a trade to announce once again involving the Seattle Seahawks. So the Indianapolis Colts package a 6th round pick next year and pick number 45 in this draft. They send that to Seattle in exchange for picks 50, 175, and a 4th next year. So Indianapolis trades down. Seattle makes an aggressive trade up, and Seattle is now on the clock with the 45th overall pick. We had them go with an offensive tackle in the first round. I like them going on the defensive line with this pick, and they definitely need an elite pass rusher, and that's exactly what I think they're going to get. Here at pick 45, they grab Princely Umanmielen, edge rusher from Ole Miss. So Umanmielen is 6'4", 255 pounds, 37 tackles, but hit double-digit sacks for Ole Miss last year at 10.5. My NFL comp for him is Jared Verse. I think he's got a very high ceiling here at the NFL level. Umanmielen goes to the Seattle Seahawks after a mock trade up at pick 45. The 46th overall pick belongs to the Atlanta Falcons, and yes, finally, we will go on the defensive side for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to have them go on the defensive line here and grab another edge rusher, JT Tuimoloau, edge rusher from Ohio State. Tuimoloau, 6'5", 270, racking up 61 tackles and 12.5 sacks at Ohio State last year. I have him projecting just below Princely Umanmielen, or Umanmielen. Sorry, I always have trouble with that name. But his NFL comp for me is Greg Rousseau. So I think he's got a pretty high ceiling at the NFL level. I think he fits very well with Atlanta's scheme and what they do in terms of their pass rush. I have him going to the Falcons at 46 overall. 47th overall pick belongs to the Arizona Cardinals, and they went with pass rusher in the first round. I'm going to have them go on the offensive side of the ball this time and pair another new young receiver across from MHJ, who they took early in the first round last year. I'm going to have them go Trey Harris, wide receiver from Ole Miss. Trey Harris getting a lot of first round buzz as we approach the draft. He's 6'2", 205 pounds, turned 60 catches into over 1,000 yards and 7 receiving touchdowns. His NFL comp for me is George Pickens. I think he's very, very similar and plays a very similar game to a George Pickens. You get him here at 47 overall. That's a steal for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, remember way back in the first round where I had the Miami Dolphins trade up with the Carolina Panthers? That puts Carolina here on the clock at pick 48. That was the very first mock trade that we did in this mock draft. The Panthers are up here at pick number 48. I'm going to have them go on the defensive side of the ball yet again. I did have them go with a pass rusher in the first round, but this time we're going to go in the secondary here to improve that pass defense. I'm going to have them draft Maxwell Hairston, cornerback from the University of Kentucky. Hairston, 5'11", 180 pounds, 19 tackles, 4 pass breakups, and a pick. His NFL comp for me is Jair Alexander. I put him right alongside, just like that, I guess just that one tier down in terms of cornerbacks in this draft class. This is a very deep class for DBs, as cornerbacks especially. But Maxwell Hairston, I think, is right up there with the best of them. Carolina gets him at pick number 48, and I think they're going to feel pretty good about that. All right, we are 3/4 of the way done here. I think we should probably be able to get this in under 2 hours, which is I'm going to take that as a win because we're getting a lot of information out here. Let's see. In the chat, I'm calling it. Aaron Rodgers will be back as a Jet after training camp. Oh boy. Feels like that relationship is done. Could be wrong, but feels like that relationship might be Dunskies. Cameron Williams could be the Alex Ovechkin of the NFL. I got Washington winning the cup and Ovechkin retires as a champion. If they win the cup, I imagine Ovi probably retires, but it's tough to say. Nobody should make that decision but him. Kyler Murray needs a wide receiver help. Anybody will do. Fair enough. You need a SpongeBob saying 2 hours. Yeah, SpongeBob saying not 2 hours later on the podcast. Yeah, that would be. I could make that happen. We'll figure that out. Maybe next time. All right. The 49th overall pick belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals. So, of course, we had Cincinnati in the first round go with a D tackle. I'm going to have them stay right there on the defensive line because we still don't know what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson. So I'm going to have them stay on the D line. The best edge rusher remaining in this class, I believe, is Jared Ivey, edge rusher from Ole Miss. Jared Ivey, 6'5", 265, racked up 42 tackles and 7 sacks in 2024 for Ole Miss. My NFL comp for him is AJ Epinesa with, I believe, Buffalo. But their physical frames are very similar. I think they have a very similar game and project very similarly at the NFL level. So Jared Ivey from Ole Miss to Cincinnati at pick number 49. They solidify their defensive line. The 50th overall pick belongs to the Indianapolis Colts by virtue of that mock trade, except it doesn't by virtue of another mock trade. Ding, ding, ding for the second straight mock trade. The Indianapolis Colts are trading down again. The Colts move pick number 50 to the Detroit Lions in exchange for picks 60, 102, and 180. They get a little bit of extra draft value here. They're going to move back another 10 picks in the draft. The Colts trade down from 50 to 60. The Lions making an aggressive move up to pick number 60 to address the interior of their offensive line, which is something that they badly do need to address. And they're going to do that with what I believe is one of the better guards left in this draft class. To me, that is Donovan Jackson, guard from the Ohio State Buckeyes. Donovan Jackson, 6'4", 320 pounds. His NFL comp for me is Nick Allegretti, somebody who I believe was maybe a tackle coming out of college, but very quickly moved to the inside at the NFL level. This is similar for Donovan Jackson. He's listed as a tackle. He's not. He's a guard. He's going to be a guard at the NFL level. So I like Donovan Jackson moving to the inside here, and I like Detroit getting aggressive to move up to pick 50 to go and get him. Pick 51 belongs to the Denver Broncos. We, of course, had them go with Colston Loveland in the first round. I think they stay on the offensive side of the ball here, do the Denver Broncos, and I think they're going to grab another piece for that running back room. Of course, Javonte Williams out the door now. They don't really have that kind of top caliber number one back, and I think they're still searching for that. They've got guys, but they don't really have the guy. And I think they're going to grab somebody who has the potential here to be the guy down the line, and that's Caleb Johnson, running back from the University of Iowa. Caleb Johnson, 6 feet tall, 225 pounds, carried the ball 240 times last year for over 1,500 rushing yards and 21 rushing touchdowns. He also caught 22 balls for $188 and 2 receiving touchdowns. His NFL comp for me is Najee Harris. Very similar to a Najee Harris type, a power runner who can run between the tackles and can catch balls. And I think Caleb Johnson will have an immediate impact at the NFL level. That's why I have him going to the Denver Broncos at 51 overall. The 52nd overall pick belongs to the Seattle Seahawks by virtue of a trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was the DK Metcalf trade, wasn't it? I believe. So Seattle's on the clock here at 52. I think Seattle goes on the offensive side of the ball this time, and I'm going to have them grab who I believe is probably the best tight end prospect still left in this class, and that's Harold Fannin Jr., tight end from Bowling Green. An absolute ridiculous stat line for Harold Fannin. He's 6'4", 230 pounds. As a tight end, caught 117 passes for 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. Insane stat line for a tight end, but he's the kind of player that has the versatility to go out wide, to play as a slot receiver, to go anywhere around the formation. I think he's like a Dalton Kincaid type where he's got the versatility to play anywhere. That's an offensive weapon for that Seahawks offense, and I think that makes them significantly better and more dangerous on the offensive side. The 53rd overall pick belongs to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, except ding, ding, ding. We have a trade to announce. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers in our 11th mock trade trades pick 53 to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills moving pick 56 and 132 to Tampa Bay in order to move up from 56 to 53. Buffalo is chasing that help in the secondary, and the best cornerback left in this class is cornerback Azariah Thomas from Florida State, and that's who Buffalo trades up to grab at pick 53. Azariah Thomas, 6'1", 190 pounds, 53 tackles, 4 pass breakups, and a pick in 2024. To me, he profiles like a Joey Porter Jr. type. Definitely a starting boundary, press man cornerback. And I think he's going to be highly coveted by a team here at the back half of the second round. I got Buffalo trading up from 56 to 53 to go grab Azariah Thomas. Okay, what are we at here? We are at pick number 54, which belongs to my Green Bay Packers. Pick number 54 after the Packers traded up in the first round to go grab Jahdae Barron at corner. I think the Packers go on the offensive side of the ball here, and my favorite wide receiver left in this class is Elic Aomanor, wide receiver from Stanford. It's not just because he's a Canadian guy. I think he's one of the most versatile receivers in this class, and I love him going in the back half of the second round here. Iomanor last year, 6'2", 210 pounds, turned 63 catches into over 830 yards receiving, including 6 receiving touchdowns. So 1 in every 10 catch was going to the house. Puka Nacua is my NFL comp here. I think they profile exceptionally similar. Their builds are almost exactly the same. I think they play the same type of game. And I think Matt LaFleur and the Packers offense could make great use of a player like Elic Aomanor, and he will go to the Packers at pick number 54. Pick number 55 belongs to the Los Angeles Chargers. We had them go D tackle in the first round, I believe. And I think we're going to stick on the defensive side of the ball here. We're going to get somebody in the secondary to kind of lock down that pass defense. I like Darian Porter here, cornerback out of Iowa State. I think is a good fit for the Chargers at number 55. 6'4", 200 pounds. So a very tall DB, and somebody that it makes it difficult to find good comps for him because of his height. Not a lot of corners are 6'4". He had 18 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and 3 picks in 2024. My best comp for him is Rasul Douglas, and I think Douglas is only 6'2". But again, a lot of corners are not as tall as Darian Porter are, so it's tough to find comps. But I think he plays a very similar game and a very similar stat line output to Rasul Douglas. I think he'll be used in similar ways, so I like the comp, and I like him to the Chargers at 55. And the 56th overall pick by virtue of that 11th mock trade between the Bills and the Tampa Bay Bucks goes to the Tampa Bay Bucks at 56. I have them going wide receiver here as well, and I'm going to have them go with Savion Williams, wide receiver from TCU. Savion Williams, 6'5", 225 pounds, 60 catches for 611 yards and 6 receiving touchdowns last season at TCU. This is a secondary need for the Bucks, but I think Williams comps like a Nico Collins. I think it'll take him a couple of years to get there, but you look at Mike Evans only has a couple of years left, and to try to replace a guy like that is very difficult, but with the physical build and the physical attributes of a Savion Williams, I think he goes a long way to doing just that. So Savion Williams to the Bucks at 56. And we only have 8 picks left to make in mock draft 2.0. Okay, what do we got in the chat here before we finish things up? Cincinnati needs defense more than offensive help. If anything on offense, it's a good O-line. The Colts are known to trade down in the draft, so it's no surprise to me at all if they do that. Gotta love it. Let's see. If Donovan Jackson goes to Detroit, I think they'll be even more dominant on the offensive side than they were this past season. I agree. Give Jared Goff all the time in the world to make those decisions. Hit those, those crossers to Amon-Ra, or those deep balls to Jameson Williams. It's an almost unstoppable offense. And I got to ask you, if there's one player draft in the NFL that could be a good fit in the CFL, who would it be? Oh boy. It's probably the receivers. Honestly, I think even a guy like Savion Williams, who we just talked about, I think would be an exceptionally good receiver in the CFL because of his size. I feel like there's very few CFL DBs who would match up to that size. So, for lack of a better answer, I'm going to go Savion Williams. I like that a lot. All right. The final 8 picks of the draft. Are you ready I know I am. Here we go. The 57th overall pick belongs to the Carolina Panthers by virtue of a real world trade with the Los Angeles Rams. So, Carolina, we've had them go in a couple of different directions here in the draft so far. Edge rusher, we've had them go corner. I think they stay on the defensive side. I think it is all defense here for the Carolina Panthers. And there is a linebacker here that I absolutely love and absolutely love the fit with Carolina. That is Demetrius Knight Jr., linebacker from South Carolina, a downhill Bobby Okereke style middle linebacker, 6'2", 245, who racked up 82 tackles and a pair of sacks last year in South Carolina. I think Demetrius Knight Jr. steps in immediately as a Will or Mike linebacker for the Carolina Panthers. I think he probably starts right away, or certainly by mid-season. I think he's their starter in the middle of that defense, and I think he makes that defense way more dangerous. So Demetrius Knight Jr. to Carolina at 57, I love it. The 58th pick belongs to the Houston Texans. They went wide receiver in the first round. I really like them to go on the O-line here. I think it's one of their biggest areas of need. And I'm going to have them go Ariante Urzuri, offensive tackle from the University of Minnesota. He's 6'6", 330 pounds, a very, very big body. I think he comps like a Braxton Jones. I think he's probably a fairly pure left tackle, but might have some juice on the right hand side as well. But I think he's probably the best tackle prospect, or one of the best tackle prospects that's left in this draft class. Ariante Urzuri from Minnesota goes to Houston at 58. The 59th overall pick belongs to the Baltimore Ravens. I had them go with Gray Zabel in the first round, a bit of a stretch. So we're going to have them go on the defensive line here, get themselves the best pass rusher, I think, left in this class. And we're going to have them go with Josiah Stewart, edge rusher from the University of Michigan. Oh, we got a phone call. Somebody's trying to call in the trade line. Somebody's trying to make a trade. Josiah Stewart, 6'1", 245, 33 tackles and 8.5 sacks on the season from the University of Michigan. I think Azeez Ojulari is a pretty good comp for him at the NFL level. I think Stewart steps in right away and makes contributions on that Baltimore D-line. So I like him a lot to Baltimore at 59. Finally, mercifully, the Indianapolis Colts will make their second round pick after making 2 trade downs. Remember, they took Tyler Warren way back in the first round. Indianapolis finally makes their pick. And I'm going to have them go on the defensive side. And I think the best safety prospect that is left in this draft class is Xavier Watts, safety from Notre Dame, a Brian Branch style safety with a pretty sexy stat line from 2024. He's 6 feet tall, 205 pounds, 83 tackles, 9 pass breakups, and 6 picks. In 2024, he got the job done for Notre Dame last season. I think he steps in right away, and he could potentially be a starter right away for the Indianapolis Colts in their secondary. Again, a Brian Branch comp, you can get him at this point in the draft. I think you go ahead and you do that. So the Indianapolis Colts finally select Xavier Watts. The Washington Commanders are up at pick number 61. They went with an edge rusher, Mike Green, in the first round of this mock. They're going to stand put here at 61 and draft Jonah Savenea, offensive tackle from the University of Arizona, 6'5", 330 pounds. I think he comps like a Tyler Smith in that he is probably another one of these tackle prospects that will find a higher ceiling at the NFL level by moving inside. Doesn't necessarily mean that he will, but I think that's where his highest ceiling is. So Savenea goes to Washington at pick number 61, probably ultimately transitions into a guard. The Buffalo Bills are back up at pick number 62. They obviously went with D tackle Walter Nolan earlier in this mock. I think they stick on the defensive side of the ball and they grab the next best interior linebacker that is in this class. And to me, that is Carson Schwezinger, linebacker from UCLA. 6'2", 225 pounds with an almost inconceivable 136 tackle season at UCLA. He also had 4 quarterback sacks. This is a Roquan Smith style interior linebacker who is going to rack up the tackles for years to come on the interior of somebody's defense. And I really like the fit here with the Buffalo Bills. Schwezinger goes to Buffalo at pick number 62. We only have 2 picks remaining, the first of which is pick number 63, which belongs to the Kansas City Chiefs, except it doesn't. Ding, ding, ding. Our final mock trade of Mock Draft 2.0 is between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kansas City trades pick number 63 to the Steelers in exchange for pick 83 and their 3rd round pick next year. This is a boom bust trade for both of these teams, but I think Kansas City will take the upside and the Steelers will take the gamble here that maybe they're giving up a little bit much, but Quinshon Judkins, running back from Ohio State, is still on the board. He fits a massive need for their offense. 6 feet tall, 220 pounds, 194 carries, 1,000 rush yards, 14 rush touchdowns. He also added 22 catches for $161 and 2 scores through the air. So he's a multifaceted, multi-role running back in the comp of like a Brian Robinson Jr. in Washington. And I think if Pittsburgh can get that type of receiver or back rather, who they basically kind of already have in Jaylen Warren, but he only signed his like 1 year RFA tender earlier today. So who knows what his future might look like in Pittsburgh. Quinshon Judkins could adapt and grow into that 3-down back for the Steelers. And I really like the fit here for Pittsburgh. So they get aggressive and trade up and get their guy at the tail end of the 2nd round. And the final pick of Mock Draft 2.0 belongs to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, who went with an edge rusher at with their 1st round pick earlier in this round, I'm going to have them sort of stay put here, not take that extra trade down this time, and I'm going to have them take Tate Ratledge, guard from the University of Georgia, the final pick of the 2nd round. 6'6", 320 pounds. As a guard, I think he profiles like a Sam Cosmi from division rival Washington. I think Tate Ratledge has a big upside at the NFL level, and I think that he really solidifies the future of that offensive line, even though the Eagles have basically tied up the entirety of their O-line for the long term. I think Tate Ratledge could move over on either side, might even have a future in the middle, but they don't really need that. But where it's one of these situations where I think he can move anywhere on the interior of the O-line. See, that was easy. A 2-round mock draft, a little less than 2 hours. We'll hammer it out a couple nights before the draft. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Mock Draft 2.0, a 2-round mock draft where we make all 64 picks, 12 mock trades, and we go all the way from Cam Ward at number 1 to Tate Ratledge at pick number 64. So, what did you think of the mock draft? What moves did you love? What moves did you hate? What picks did you love? What picks did you hate? Let me know all of it in the comments section down below. Once again, in the comments section below, I will put the details of all 12 mock trades. And again, I'm more than happy to have a chat about any of these picks, my philosophies going into it, anything like that. Let me know in the comments section down below. That's it for me. Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Thank you so much to the folks who stopped in the live chat to chat about the picks as they happened. Thank you so much for anybody that takes the time to watch Mock Draft 2.0. And the first round of the NFL draft takes place on Thursday. Maybe we might be back for it. I'm not sure. Last question here, and then we'll get out. Andrew, what did you pick at my Patriots at number 4? Yeah, you weren't. I don't think you were here yet, Andrew. So the 4th overall pick to the Patriots, I had them take Will Johnson, corner from Michigan. So I had them go corner in the first round, and then second round, what do we have them? We had them go edge rush. So I stayed on defense for both of those picks. I don't know. I like both of those. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and we will see you again next time. We'll figure that out later.